Alright guys, so this video is going to be about how to actually do the Raptor liner paint job. Now we've got all the hard stuff done. In the previous video we went through how to prep it and all that stuff. So it's just painting today, which is really the easiest part, but there is a little bit of a learning curve. It's not the most forgiving thing. It's a lot less forgiving than trying to use auto body spray and stuff like that with clear coat and all that stuff. But there is a little bit of a learning curve to it, and we'll try to talk you through some of that today. There's also, an issue that I've run into a couple of times, and I know that it happens a lot, and so that's what I want to talk to you about how to make the best of bad situations when you're trying to do this stuff. Because what's going to happen inevitably is you're going to have a bottle, you're trying to spray it, it's not spraying too good, it's coming out in globs, and it's like the world's ending, but the only thing you can think of is that the pot life's only less than an hour on this 1 quart of Raptor liner. So I need to get it down. And that's what happened to me the first time when I did my truck bed. I didn't know what it was supposed to come out like, and it was just kind of coming out like globs, and I was like, maybe this is the right way. Well, it's not. So if you're getting like globby stuff, stop. Put the brakes on, calm down, use some woo-saw. If you get it working right, it's only going to take you a few minutes to spray that whole bottle. You're not going to need that hour long. So you got some time, even though it feels like the time is trying to scrunch you in, and it just feels like you got to lay it down. So try to not fall into that trap. If you're lucky enough and you prepare the first one like you're supposed to, and I'm going to walk you through that, then you're going to see how it should come out with the PSI that you're working with, and you'll have a lot better understanding and kind of know that something's wrong. That's my goal here. So the first step that I recommend, and guys, I'm not a professional, I've told you this before, this is just the way that I've done 3 of my cars so far, and so I'm kind of getting the routine down, but I'm not a professional. So if you think something should be different, send it in the comments below. If you think I'm an idiot, you can tell me, whatever. Anyway, so the first step is going to be putting the epoxy primer down. So in the last video we covered the sanding, we covered the taping, the degreasing, all of that stuff. Now we're ready to start letting some paint fly. Now the epoxy primer, just like I mentioned before, I feel like that's the best option in order to get a good seal coat, get a good adhesion on the whole thing. I would recommend that. Now I bought mine off of Amazon. It's really expensive, and it has come 3 out of 3 times damaged in delivery. Now that being said, I did get 2 of those refunded. The third one I got the lid on before it caused any issue, and so take that advice how you may. I did order 1 more after I had the 2 that were broken. It came broken too. I think that it's just because it's not packaged well. It's in a regular 1-gallon paint jug, and they just kind of slam it down on the concrete, and they're hitting the road, and then it starts leaking out everywhere. The other option to get it locally is usually at a O'Reilly's. You can usually have, they don't keep it in the store usually, but they usually have it at their warehouse, so you can pick it up there. It is going to be more expensive, so it's one of those, which way do I go with it? But I do highly recommend the epoxy primer. Now the way that I recommend putting the epoxy primer on is with an HVLP gun. I just use the cheap Harbor Freight gun. Now according to their data sheet, it actually says that you can use a tip between 1.4 and 1.8. Most people use a 2.0 tip, which is how I put it on. It did go through quite a bit of material. The tip that comes on the Harbor Freight gun, I think, is 1.4. So now that I saw that information, I would probably try to do it with the 1.4 before I drilled it out. But a lot of people do drill it out. It does go through a lot of material that way though, but it didn't take as much as I would think. So like the first time when I ordered 2 gallons, it was to do the Honda Pilot. And I didn't know how much it would take. I ordered 1 and then I got nervous and ordered a second one, and they come in the same day, and one of them was completely drained and the other one had like 25% of it missing. But all that being said, that Honda Pilot only took a half a gallon, and I think my truck, I did the frame too, which I did run into some issues there, which we'll talk about later. But with the frame and the body on the truck is about 3/4 of a gallon. So, and I did the door jambs and all that stuff. So it doesn't take a whole lot. And I'd say 1 gallon should cover you for about anything, as long as you can get it to your house and it not be spilling everywhere. Now it's still good because it's not got the hardener mixed in with it yet. All in all, you know, that stuff sprays really good with the HVLP gun. Like I say, I did drill mine out to 2 millimeters. The problem that I've had with the Harbor Freight HVLP guns is that I can't get the tip off of them. And I have some spanner wrenches that are made for this, but I think that they put some epoxy in there or something to keep it from coming out. I've read a lot of people are having these issues, apparently used to. Back in the good old days, you could just take it off, take the spray tip off like any other spray gun. But I've had 3 or 4 of these in the last few months, and I've not been able to get the tip out of any of them. So that being said, if you do want to drill it out, which you're going to need to if you use the HVLP gun for the Raptor liner, but you take the cap off of the tip, and then you're supposed to take the tip off, and then you use a 5/64 drill bit, it's pretty close to 2 millimeters, and just run through that piece of plastic on the end. Now I've not been able to get it off, so what I've done like a couple of times here is I've pulled the trigger back on the HVLP gun with the cap off, and I just drill out the center, and you can feel it when it touches the pin. I mean, just be real gentle because you don't want to drill out the inside of the spray tip. You just want to get that little piece of plastic there. So that's what I did, and it worked pretty well for this. Now the proper mixing ratio with the epoxy primer, which is going to be printed all over the can, so it's not something that's really easy to mess up, but it's 4:1. I did use these special buckets that I got off of Amazon, the paint pails, and they have the different ratios on there, which made a lot of this stuff easier. So you basically find the column that says 4:1, and then you fill up the base to that amount, and then you fill up the hardener to the same, where it's the same number on the one that you have, as long as it's on the 4:1 ratio. So like it'll be like 2 quarts, and then you'll fill the primer up to where it says 2 as well, and then mix it together with a stir stick. That worked fine for me, didn't have any issues whatsoever. It also seemed to mix up really well too. All right, now you're gonna start spraying. A lot of people do this differently, and I've done it different on both of the cars that I've done. So number one, while you're spraying the primer, the problem that I had when I did the Honda is I had plastic over the engine. I did do the underside of the hood and stuff, but it was a plastic cowl, so I had the plastic coming down over the windshield, around the cowl, and over the engine without any breaks in it. And then I put the hood down to do the top of it, and it got into the plastic there and caused me an issue. Now it's underneath the hood. Nobody knows it's there until I just told you, and I'm throwing that hood in the trash next week anyway because my daughter rear-ended somebody in the car and I got to rebuild it again. Anyway, that's a whole different story, and it'll be a whole nother video of like how do we fix this stuff whenever somebody goes and F's it up. Lucky us, we get to make more videos. Anyway, back to the point at hand. So I was trying to avoid that situation. So what I did when I did the primer on the truck is I went ahead and I did the door jambs, and I did the body, and I did the top of the hood when I did the body. And now this stuff flashes off in like 10 minutes. It's, you know, you can put Raptor over in an hour. I did do 2 coats of it, but I went through and I did all that, and then I lifted the hood up afterwards after I got both coats on there, and I did 2 coats underneath the hood so that it would be completely covered as well, and then it wouldn't be wet and me dropping it down on there. And the next thing that I did differently on the Honda, basically I painted the whole car at the same time, which a lot of people do. So I sprayed inside the door jambs, and then I just kind of closed the door loosely and painted the outside of the door. With the truck, because I was trying to cut down on those issues, I did spray the underneath of the hood and the door jambs on one day, and then I went back the next day and sprayed the outside of the truck. And when I sprayed the outside of the truck, obviously I got the top of the hood at that point. Oh, one thing that we didn't cover whenever we were doing the taping, use some painter's tape to tape off any of your like Vin Tag or your stickers on the inside of your door jambs and stuff like that, that's got like your air pressure and stuff like that. The way that it worked for me whenever I did that, I took some tape and I pushed it down on there really strong, and you could see the outline of the sticker, and then I just took a utility knife and cut around the sticker. Now some of those, I tried to line one edge up with the straight edge so it would at least be better. Some of those turned out better than others as far as like looking factory, by, you know, having that look fine whenever you pull the tape off. Some of them, the paint line's not the cleanest in the world, but it is what it is in that respect. All right, so as far as spraying the primer, you got it mixed 4-to-1. You just pour some in the cup of the HVLP gun. Keep your lid over the other because you don't want any like bugs or anything getting into that or any dirt. And then you go through and you just start spraying the car. I'd start at the top and then go down from there is the way that I usually do it. But you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just primer. You just want to coat everything in a nice even coat. I set my air compressor at 60 psi. Oddly enough, it seems to keep up okay spraying the Raptor, but spraying the epoxy primer, I think mine's 27 gallons. It's just a cheap Harbor Freight air compressor that I've had for years, but it works fine. But the when I was doing the HVLP gun, it seems to lose a lot more pressure a lot faster. So you gotta wait and let it catch up to you a little bit there. And then whenever I was spraying the door jambs, I was just trying to coat everything I could. You know, you're not going to be able to get every millimeter in there without taking those doors off. But I did kind of the spray and pray on the inside of the door frame, you know, trying to wiggle it back and forth and kind of trying to coat everything as much as you could there. And I thought about trying to like tape off the rubber seals that have the electrical stuff inside and all that, but all in all, I figured if it flakes off, it's going to flake off eventually and be uniform. It's going to look the same when I get done with it now. I didn't take the extra time because it's in that little crack. It's hard to get to. Nobody's going to know it unless you watch this video and you listen to me tell you that I'm lazy. But ignore that anyway. I also did the bed of the truck and the tailgate at the same time, even though I had removed both of those from the vehicle in the past. But I just want you to know that I did paint it at the same time. So I did go over the body of the truck and the door jambs, and then I went and did the tailgate and the bed, which I had on a little rolly cart that I made. Because, you know, a lot of people don't take the bed off, and that's all fine and dandy, but I really wanted to make this like as good of a project as I could. And you probably wouldn't know if somebody's, you know, sprayed up in there as good as they could. But you know that on my truck, it's green all the way down the back because I can show you a picture of it. You know, it's probably not going to change anything, but it gives it a good thick coat of protection down through there. And it all matches, and I don't ever have to worry about something happening, somebody seeing some white down in there and being like, oh, look at you, you lazy bum. I also felt like by taking the bed off, all those areas where it like starts wrapping in between the body, you're going to get a lot better coat on there, and it's also, you know, going to be less likely to fail. All right, so we went through and we put the epoxy primer over everything. So then what's the next step? Well, the next step is just to start spraying it with the Raptor liner, baby. Yeah, and that's the good thing, and that's what I love about the epoxy primer. You only have to have 60 minutes, and then you can coat right over the top of it. Don't have to rescuff it or anything. So that's what we're going to do now.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.